Hey, whippersnappers, this is Tort with the Gray. Welcome back to another exciting Tort Talks vlogs. 10 years of Tort is what we're going to call this one. Today, April 22nd, 2023 is our 10-year channel anniversary. My 10-year channel anniversary. A lot of you guys have been around from the very beginning. At least those of you who are still around to even watch this. But yeah, 10 years ago today, my first upload. Now my channel creation date, creating that first video took a long time. And we'll go more into that a little later. We got a little Q&A section we're gonna do later, and a couple of you guys asked about that. But yeah, doing that first video took a little while. So I don't know exactly when the channel was created, but today's the 10-year anniversary of the first ever upload. I was hoping to do a lot of things for that. I was hoping to have like episode 3 of the Little League out, or I was hoping to kick off the Pentathlon season 6. Yes. I was hoping to stream for like 24 hours or something, but in the end, life just got in the way, as it tends to do. But I wanted to, at very least, do something. 10 years is crazy, so wanted to go ahead and at least do this little vlog with you guys, kind of reminisce about the last 10 years. Not do a post-mortem. There's the word. The channel's not dead necessarily. On life support, maybe. It has been for several years. These little guys are mostly to blame for that, but no, you're great. But just kind of talk about where we started, where we've been, where maybe we're going. Because I mean, we are going. Things are keeping trucking. You know, as example, we're starting Gray Version Season 4, my Pokemon Showdown community involvement series. The 4th season of that is kicking off Monday. So today's what, Saturday? Hopefully it's still Saturday when this goes up, but yeah, that's going to be kicking off Monday. So things are still happening here and there, very slowly and very occasionally, but things are still happening. So talk about where we've been, where we're going, where we started, things like that. And then, as I said, I had asked you guys in the Discord and on the community tab of YouTube, which is a thing apparently, like, hey, do you got any questions you might want to ask? And a bunch of you guys did, so we got a bunch of those we're going to go through as well. But yeah, just thinking back. So April 22nd, 2013, I guess would have been the kickoff date 10 years ago, and yeah, I mean, I was 24 years old. I mean, I know that my avatar is like this eternally aged tortoise, and every time I cite my age, it's my age plus 100 years, I think. So I think Tortimer is technically 134 years old, but I was a wee lad of 24 when I kicked this off, and felt ancient even then. Now, you know, when I first got into this, and it's funny because I recently got reminded of, even for those of you guys who are like 90s, 2000s eras kids, you maybe played Neopets. And I recently got reminded, I was watching Games Done Quick, and there was a video game that apparently they'd made that I'd never heard of, but reminded me that the site even existed. And even back then, I was in like middle school or something. Like basically my avatar, my persona on that site was Old Man Turtle. I was a turtle at that point. But it was basically Tortimer. And so it's funny that like I've always kind of had this like felt like an old soul type thing. But when I first started doing the YouTube thing, you know, I was like, well, this is something that 12-year-olds do. And I kind of got into it because I started watching a lot of Minecraft. I got into it intending to do like mostly Minecraft, and then I had been kind of doing Pokemon comics for Nuzlocke and things like that, and I was like, well, let's do that as well. And then Pokemon kind of took off, and that's kind of the main thing on my channel most times. But yeah, I kind of started getting into it because I was watching Minecraft with like B-dubs and Beef and Etho, and I was like, these are just cool guys, and I was like, I want to hang out with these guys, and so I was like, well, I gotta, so I originally started my channel with the end goal of potentially getting to like hang out with guys like Generic B or Beef or B-dubs or Etho, or those kinds of people. I actually have met a couple of those. I went to PAX in 2016, maybe, I want to say, and actually met Beef and ran into Jenny B on the street at one point, but wouldn't go so far as to say we're friends. Met them, said hi once. I'm friends with people who are friends with them, though, and that's the next best thing. Yeah, so that first upload, though, was 10 years ago, was Hexaplock Season 1 with Pokemon Fire Red. And I went back and rewatched that first episode recently, and man, I wouldn't say, somebody asked a question, we'll get to it, like, what's the worst thing you've ever put out on the channel or whatever? And I was like, honestly, I'm not like hugely cringely embarrassed by any of the stuff on my channel. Like, I know a lot of people, just like, they hide all their early stuff. None of their stuff is out there. Only like the most recent things are out there. And mine has always been an open archive. Every single thing I've ever uploaded is on the channel. And we'll talk more about it when we get to the questions. But yeah, I mean, that's out there, and that was a journey, man. I was a 24-year-old kid, feeling like with the soul of a 124-year-old tortoise, and I was like, well, let's do this thing. And I'd made like little animation projects and things like that in school, but I'd never done any kind of like video production at all. And this was in the days before like OBS and other like really high quality free stuff was available, or at least I wasn't in the know enough to like really track down the good stuff. So I was working with some very subpar equipment. I had like a real cruddy like webcam mic that I was using for my microphone. I was using this, I don't even remember what it was called, but I was using this one piece of software that like literally, if the recording file got larger than 2 gigabytes, it just wouldn't save it. It wouldn't save like the first 2 gigs. It would just not save at all if the file got like was long enough that it got to like the size would be over 2 gigs. And so, yeah, recording that first episode is why I say it took forever. Because like I was committed, I was going for it. But then I kept running into these like road bumps because like I didn't know what I was doing. And even once I kind of like got into the swing of things, like I was hitting these technology issues where it's like, yeah, I just recorded the whole episode and it wouldn't save. And so I think I recorded that first episode of Hexaplock like 20 times maybe, like literally, no joke. And I ended up having to record it in like 5-minute chunks, save it. No, yes, no. I ended up having to record it in like 5-minute chunks. And I would like, because I was playing Pokemon Fire Red, so I'd be watching the timer, and as I was getting close to 5, I would like walk into a building, and then that would give me clean cuts for like, okay, so then I could like stop, save, walk back out of the building, hit record, walk back in, and like continue the thought. It's been a while since I've gone back and like watched a full episode, but even just like the opening, like the intro sequence, and my intro sequence hasn't changed since like Hexaplock Season 2. And it's still, hand-drawn garbage, but the first title card, like my intro sequence on Hexaplock Season 1, is like a very sloppily drawn, very, it's bad. Hey everybody, this is Tortimer the Gray. I'm a newcomer here on YouTube, and today I'm bringing you a new Let's Play series of Pokemon Fire Red. But I think it's got character. I think it's got character. I'm not like embarrassed by it. It is bad, but I'm not embarrassed by it or anything. But yeah, going back and just like, I should rewatch a full episode. I should have done that prior to this, but go back and rewatch the first episode and just be like, man, see if it's really choppy, because like I was literally recording in 5-minute segments and like piecing the whole thing together in post, having to use movie magic to kind of like okay, I'm gonna walk into this building, or I'm gonna enter this wild battle, or whatever, something to just like get me to a point where I could have a clean cut, because I didn't want it to feel super choppy, so I was trying to find ways to do it. But yeah, I mean, it's funny because even things like, you know, the hey whippersnappers thing, I didn't even come up with it. Somebody on the Nuzlocke forums came up with that, and I think that maybe is like a catchphrase, like the whippersnappers thing is a catchphrase of like Animal Crossing Tortimer, which I kind of had this old man turtle character from like I said, like when I was in middle school back in like, you know, playing Neopets or whatever. But coming up, so like I should post it on Instagram or something if I can find it. All my stuff is in my garage, so I don't know if I can find it right now. I can't find it right now for sure, but at some point, if I ever find it again, I'll post a post-it note where I was kind of like doing name iterations on like how I came up with Tortimer, and I, you know, obviously I had played Animal Crossing, subconsciously it was there, but I kind of organically came to the name Tortimer, probably along the same way they did. Like you got the name Mortimer, and it's kind of an old man's name, and Tortimer. I came to it independently, even though I already like subconsciously knew, like I wasn't like trying to name myself after the Animal Crossing character necessarily, but yeah. Yeah, so, but yeah, even that, like, I think the first time I ever say hey whippersnappers is the first episode of season 3 of the Hexaplock.
Hey there, whippersnappers, it's Tortimer the Hey guys, it's Tortoise the Gray. Welcome you back to another exciting season of the Hexaplock. Season 3, we're finally getting started here.
I think it was Pokemon Heart Gold, I want to say, but I think the first episode of that, which was like the 4th or 5th series I did on my channel, because I did 2 seasons of the Hexaplock, Pokemon Fire Red and Pokemon Ruby, and then I also had a Minecraft single player going, and I had I did a Cube World series. So like I had done a bunch of stuff before, like even that like most core part of my like identity even like came into place, and I didn't even come up with it. So yeah, it's just funny to look back and be like, wow, when did this like all kind of come together? And like I said, the intro sequence has relatively stayed the same since like that second series on my channel. I've changed like the music behind it and stuff, and I've changed like the end cards and added music and stuff. Like I've made tweaks as I've gone along, but a lot of that has just kind of stayed the same. I flirted with the idea of changing things, but then in the end, I was so busy. I was so busy, and it's funny to look back, like, you know, obviously when I started this, I was a 24-year-old kid. I was a newlywed. My wife and I had got married like the fall before, and so you know, was living in our first apartment and things like that, and you know, didn't have kids or the fuzzball or any of that yet. So had like no responsibilities. And I would like, my wife would leave for work. She was a teacher, so she would leave earlier than I would. I'd like knock out a recording before work, get ready to go to work, come home for lunch. I'd knock out a recording over lunch, and then you know, I'd come home from work and she'd still be, you know, I'd get home a little earlier than her too, because she'd be like at work or at school, like grading or, you know, whatever. And so I'd like knock out, and like I was just like, you know, nowadays, like 10 years on, like we get a couple uploads a year maybe. There was a time, I don't know if you guys remember, like, whoo. I had like 6 series running, and they were updating multiple times a week. I had at least 1 new episode up every day of the week. Sometimes 2 episodes were going up on a day. Like, it was insane. I've got spreadsheets. I should post pictures of the spreadsheets. I don't have all of them, because like when it used to be, because I was stupid, used to be when like a year would roll over, I'd like, when we moved into 2017, I deleted the 2016 spreadsheet, and I finally was like, I should save these for posterity. So I've got several years of just like spreadsheets. I would like track it, and like, you know, I had like Pokemon Mondays, the Hexaplock would come out on Mondays, or Minecraft Wednesdays, or Farside Fridays, or, you know, whatever. Like each series updated on its day, and then eventually I was like, okay, well, we're gonna update the series, but it's not gonna be on like a specific day, because maybe I don't want to play Minecraft, you know, on Tuesday for a Wednesday episode. So shifted that around, but I was still putting out, like, I did that as a way to ease the burden of YouTube, and then like unfettering myself from the schedule. Just I did like twice as much content at that point, just because I like wasn't fettered to a schedule. That didn't help in the way I intended it. So I mean, eventually, like, life just got too busy. Burnout for sure on some things. I think back in, I want to say 2018, my computer died. And I was able to recover most of the data, but there are some things like my Minecraft Dinosaur series, which was a really popular one for me. And it was one that I had a lot of fun with. But like that world, I've still to this day have never been able to get that world working properly again. Things like that. Some of that stuff just never came back after that point. And so that kills some of our momentum on some things. But yeah, I mean, it just, just life. And now, like, we had our first son, Tortellini, at the very beginning of the pandemic. Like, literally, he was born March 15th. And like, primary lockdown started happening here in the States, at least, on March 16th. So, like, we were still in the hospital with him. And like, my parents were like, well, if you want us to bring you dinner, we're gonna have to bring it at lunch, because it sounds like all the restaurants have to be closed by like 3 p.m. today or whatever, this type of thing. So so that happened. And then, our original plan was for my wife to go back to work, and he would go into like daycare in the fall when school came back in. And then she just, like 2 weeks before she was supposed to go back in to do her summer, planning or whatever, she's like, I can't do it. I can't do it. So she ended up staying home. But originally I was thinking, well, she'll be going back to work, he'll be going to daycare, channel pick back up in the fall. But fast forward, 3 years later, and fast forward 3 years later, not only are my wife and sons now both around 24/7, which makes it very difficult to slip away and record. Used to be I couldn't do things in the evening anymore because he was sleeping and things like that, and my office shared a wall. Now the problem is I don't have an office at all. My office is a desk in our back living room, just kind of sitting in the corner. So yeah, it makes it really challenging. Obviously I can't do before work or over lunch or whatever, because obviously they're all here and awake or sleeping or whatever. Like, it's just not conceivable. There is a possibility, if I can ever get my setup put back together properly, for me to potentially start doing some recording in the evenings and things like that. That's going to take a little bit of work, and it turns out having kids and a house to take care of, and working a full-time job and everything, it takes a lot of time. So yeah, I mean, I went from this kid with no responsibilities, just way overdoing the YouTube thing, to now a tired old man in actuality, who just doesn't really have the time. And there are things I want to do, and then there's things that we're gonna do. Those aren't all necessarily the same thing. Now, everything we're going to do are things I want to do. I'm way past the point of doing things on my channel that I don't want to do, and I never really did. If I was smart and we're doing things I didn't, if I was willing to do things I didn't want to do to like make it successful or whatever, I would have done nothing but Minecraft or nothing but Pokemon. I would have laser focused. I know there's a couple of guys who I played with way back in the day, pre-Time Shot, kind of Farside, Farside times, which was my first Minecraft SMP. And because I had done like a short-lived like single-player series of Minecraft, and then towards the end of that, I met up with this guy Cluster, and we did a short-lived Pixelmon series together, and then he invited me to their SMP. So Farside SMP, that series is on my channel. That's years and years and years ago now, but it's all still there. Like I said, everything is still there. So Farside days, there's a couple of guys. Sneak Snag was on our server. And then there was a friend of his, maybe. I don't remember who he was associated with exactly, but Shadow Apples or Billy. I actually saw him pop up in a Vintage Beef video recently. I was like, there's no way that's the same kid, Shadow Apple. Because again, this was like years and years and years ago, 8-9 years ago or whatever. do some Googles. Yep, that's him. He's got 3 million subs now or whatever. Him and Sneak both. They both have like million plus subscribers now. And they've just been grinding, man. They've just been grinding since they were kids. When we were playing together back in the day. So it's like, yeah, I mean that perseverance. You put in the time. Eventually, something's going to happen with it. And most people are able to adapt to things quicker than I. You get into the tutorials thing, or you get into the mod showcases. That kind of stuff is the stuff that drove clicks more than LPs and things like that. I was never Johnny on the spot enough to like be get on trends and things like that, so I just didn't even try. But yeah, I mean it's just wild. Most of the people from back in those days aren't around at all anymore. But the couple of people stuck it out, and they're still going. So yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, I mean, thinking back, I mean, I was years into the YouTube thing before I even met like now some of my best friends in the world, like J Seed or Kays or Mara. Or I mean, obviously I've got a great community of people. We've got a half dozen people who hang out in my Discord pretty regularly. My Discord's been pretty quiet for a little while, just because I've been so busy, and there's occasional things that pop up every once in a while, but just life, and I'm not putting out content, so that makes it a little slower too. But we've got a core group of people who have just like always been around. But even that, like some of the people, like I think like Flygon, one of our most active members. He didn't show up till like Gray Version Season 1 or something, I think he said.
Alrighty guys, here we go up against Epic Big Nick, and this is a first-time challenger this week, if I remember correctly. And he came at us, also he's got this fairy-type monstrosity out here on the field.
And like, I can't even, that was like 2015, I want to say, maybe. So I mean, I was several years into the whole thing before he even like came up on the scene or whatever. And I mean, again, he was, I think, 12 when that happened. So probably younger than that. He's just started college, right? So yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. It's like, how old were you when you started watching my channel? Yeah, I mean, it's just wild. It's just wild to think about how long 10 years really is. I mean, it feels like it's gone by like that. But just to look back at like everything we've done, has just been crazy. Like I said, some of my best friends in the world are, from this YouTube thing. So I mean, I've got no regrets whatsoever. I think one of the questions that we're gonna get to is like, what advice would you give yourself? And I'm like, I don't know that I would change anything. Like, I mean, certainly there are maybe, things here or there that, but like, man, like my wife and I went to Ireland in 2017, 2018, I think maybe, 2017, I don't know, years ago now. But like we called up my friend Kays, and we met Kays when we were visiting his part of the country or whatever. So it's just like, I have no regrets whatsoever. Had several beers with Jay type thing. Like, haven't made it to Finland yet, but someday me and Mara will meet. But yeah, no, I mean it's just the friendships more than anything. And I think that'll come up in a couple of the questions too. It's just like, what's your favorite game with friends? It's like, honestly, it doesn't even matter. Like any game that like me, Jay, and Kays, Emerald Sproutshire is kind of what we call our little group. Any game that the three of us boot up is the best game. And any game that I get to just derp with Mara is the best game, type things. And so the game is almost irrelevant. Yeah, I mean, and that's one of the, we'll talk about that later. But yeah, I mean, we can get into the questions. We've talked enough. We've reminisced enough. So let's do that. And we'll I've got paper, which is great. So I've got these just kind of broken down by like who asked them alphabetically, just because I couldn't think of a better way to organize. I kind of put into categories, but then like, well, once I finish all the channel categories, everyone's going to tune out because they're not going to care about the real life stuff. Anybody who's watching this video isn't that fickle. Anybody who still watches any of my content is like diehard. So, all right, but this is from Flygon. First question related to the channel. If you had a choice to go back and redo a series, which would you redo? And I honestly could not come up with an answer to this in the scope of the question. Like, oh, I'm really not happy with how Minecraft Dinosaurs went, so I want to redo it because like I feel like it needs like the concept was so cool, but I botched it. At least that's kind of how I interpret redo. Now there are series that like I want to maybe reboot, maybe not redo, but reboot. Like my Minecraft Dinosaur series, I've got an idea that I would like to do for that. Unfortunately, the idea I want to do takes a lot of work to set up, and I just don't have the time for that kind of stuff. But it's something that's like constantly in my brain, something I do want to do. So like Minecraft Dinosaurs is one. I'd love to do another season of my Minecraft Lord of the Rings series. There are like projects out there. What my big complaint with that Minecraft Lord of the Rings series, and I really enjoyed it the first time through, but everybody was like, when's the next season going to be or whatever. It's like, I don't know if there's nothing here to do like a next season. Like I did the exploration thing, we went to all the places, but the problem with that mod is like the people who created the mod, they like got their like primary server or whatever where like everybody's building, Osgiliath and Bree and like Helm's Deep and things like that. So like there's all this geography and like NPCs and there's all this great stuff in the mod, but there's like nothing like at any of the landmarks. Like there's no settlements or cities or like none of that stuff actually exists. It was like I've looked at all the pretty mountains and rocks. Like I don't know what I would do for a season 2 because like I was like if they ever add that stuff, then we'll go back. And there are projects out there where like people have built those things and you can kind of plug them in. I don't remember. I looked into it at one point and I don't remember exactly how it works, but there are models for all that stuff out there that you could plug in and then be able to play. So if I could get some sort of map where it's got like the actual structures and things, it'd be awesome if it was like some sort of like RPG map type deal in that mod where you could like go into Bree and talk to, the barman in the Prancing Pony or whatever and get like a quest or like, I don't know. But there are definitely, and the Minecraft Dinosaurs one is another one that I've wanted to do because like I really loved that series and a lot of you guys really loved it too. And trying to figure out a way that like I can't get that world working again. But how could I potentially carry this on in a way that would be interesting type thing. And I guess redo. So that's kind of some reboot stuff. Redo. In fact, did I have anything else on there? Yeah. I put a couple of notes. I made a spreadsheet, which will surprise nobody. There's a bunch of series on my channel, which I didn't do a lot of these, at least not early on. Like early on, I was like, everything is getting run to completion. I will not have any loose threads, this, that, and the other. But there are definitely some series, like not redo, but definitely return to and complete. Like my Jak 2 series, the Jak and Daxter series is one of my favorite series of games, but like nobody was watching that. That was purely for me, and I'm like, this is too much work for just me. I can play these games on my own. But like those loose threads, now that I look back and like I got incomplete playlists and things like that, pretty much anything that's incomplete, I would love to go back to. But again, it's a time thing and a completionist thing that like nobody cares about but me. So like that's probably not going to happen. But if I had my druthers, how are the hatchlings in the fuzzball? Asks Flagon and Mara. Mara both asked, and Flagon both asked that one. So Tortoni, my second son, is he's 10 months old now. He's doing great, growing like a weed. We had a bit of a medical scare, not a scare. But like on one of his ultrasounds before he was even born, they noticed an issue with one of his kidneys or whatever, and we've been dealing with that. Getting regular ultrasounds and things like that. It wasn't anything that was like debilitating or anything like that. It was a pretty minor thing. But we actually just a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago, had another follow-up ultrasound, and it looks like it's maybe resolved itself. So that's great. My oldest son, Tortellini, just turned 3. And he is going to be having some surgery next month. He's got some stuff going on with his eyes. He's got like 2 lazy eye type things going on, which they're worried will potentially affect his long-term vision and field of depth of vision and things like that. Eventually the brain learns to disregard, cockeyed eyes or whatever, I guess. So it just like doesn't even process information from it. So he's going to be having some surgery. we're working with a really good group, one of the best. So we're not too worried about it. Obviously, anything like that is going to be tough. Hopefully, it won't be as traumatic as when we had to take him to the ER and for it because it kind of came on sudden, and they were like real worried that maybe it was like some sort of brain tumor or something. And so we had to take him to the ER and get like an MRI and everything. But it ended up it's just this sudden onset lazy eye thing or whatever. So hopefully the whole surgery thing will be less traumatic than like the ER thing. But yeah, so that thoughts and prayers would be great for that. That's coming about a month from now. Fuzzball's doing great. Come here, buddy. Come here. Come here. Come here. People want to say hi. Come here. Come here. Oh, come here. Oh, puppy. Say hi. Hi. Yeah, he's getting old. He just turned 8. Which again, like he wasn't even here when the channel started. So yeah, he just turned 8. Getting a little gray around the eyes, and he's always been kind of slow and lazy, so not real noticeable difference there. But he's a good boy. He's been really good with the boys. Didn't know what to think about when Tortellini came along. Didn't think much of him at all when he was just like a baby. And then when Tortellini started walking, he's like, oh, he's a person. I like people. And so he warmed up to him then. But then when Tortellini started being able to like chase him and grab his tail and things like that, he's like, wait, maybe I do like babies. Let's go back to that. And so he's actually been a lot warmer with Tortoni than he was with Tortellini as a baby, just because he's like, I do like it when they sit still and are a little quieter. That's actually better for me. So his life's got turned a little upside down, but he's doing good. He's a good boy. So thank you, Flygon. All right, these come from Jake from the Farside server. He asks, what RPG class best represents you? And I put down Hunter and or Paladin. Hunter because Hunter or Ranger or whatever are typically the class that get to have like an animal companion or something like that. And that's always me. I always want to like, Pokemon, or when I'm in WoW, or real life. Like I love having the animal sidekick thing. So that's that class for sure. And or Paladin. I'm always like, you watch modern D&D, or even like the Time Shot group. I've not been able to plug in there, but the Time Shot group, when they're doing like, you always have like the murder hobos, modern D&D iteration content, and yeah, that's I always like. I would be like the guy who's like, now maybe we should just like, I would be like the the lawful good one who's like, maybe let's not kill the townspeople for this, that, and the, like, so I think probably Paladin or Hunter would probably be the best classes for me. Jake also asked, what's your favorite video game of all time? Which I was surprised how difficult I found this question. That should be a pretty easy question, and I could not. The thing is, the thing I've realized, and especially doing this YouTube thing, and just how my life has changed. Like when I first started doing YouTube, my absolute favorite games of all time were like long form, story driven, single player RPG types, like Mass Effect or like the Jak and Daxter series. Well, Jak and Daxter's not as much RPG, but these long form like story driven games. And I find that now, like I was so excited for like that remaster of Mass Effect that came out, but like, especially when I was doing the grind of YouTube, or even now in life where I just like don't have time for video games anymore, really, like I just don't have the time for that stuff anymore. And so like, whereas like some of my favorite gaming experiences were like Mass Effect or whatever, like I could not sit down and play a Mass Effect again today. Like I just don't think I've got it in me anymore. So like, I don't know if I can like really say that. I don't know what I would replace it with. Pokemon Legends Arceus was great. I don't know if I would put it as like favorite video game of all time. Honestly, the ones that keep flashing into my mind, which I don't know if I would put them favorite video game of all time either, but like Banjo-Kazooie, or like the Banjo-Kazooie games, Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie on the N64, and or the original Paper Mario are the two games that keep popping into my head. And those aren't even ones that I've played in like the last 20 years. So like I can't put them at that point. But like I don't know. I don't know what I would say. I don't really like. I don't have any like modern games that I've played necessarily that I would necessarily class there. But there's probably different like some best gaming experiences, favorite games historically. I mean, it's really, but like if I were to give an answer today, I'm not even sure what I would say, which is a little scary. I should probably figure that out. But in the thinking the time that I had to do, I couldn't get it sorted. So there we go. If you could give a piece of your advice 10 years ago, what would it be? So that was from Jake as well. I think we talked about that a little bit earlier. I think what I had written down here was, and I could look, was just have fun with it. And I think that that's good advice. I think there was definitely a time where I took YouTube way too seriously. I was putting more effort into my YouTube channel than I was into my job, which thankfully didn't end up having any like hugely detrimental consequences. But there was definitely a time where like I was putting more serious hard work into my YouTube channel than I was into my 9-to-5 job. And obviously that's not healthy, and I eventually realized that and cut that crap out. But at the same time, as I said, like some of my best friends in the world came as part of this YouTube thing. And if I wasn't doing, you took your hat off. You took your hat off. If I wasn't doing the grind, like I don't know if I would have like had the initiative to like get on to the Decimon server, which was my first like SMP Pixelmon server that I got on. I went from like Farside to Decimon, from Decimon to Timeshot. And Decimon is where I met Jay, is where I met Kays. Connecting with that, also on that server was like Anasia and Winter and April, and so all that, there was a lot of time shotters on that server, because I think maybe at the time Deci was on Timeshot. I think he had left. If he was, he had left by the time I got on Timeshot. But yeah, it was just kind of like, if I hadn't had the initiative to like worm my way onto the Decimon server, which I did nefariously, then I wouldn't like have I wouldn't have any of my best friends basically in this space, because like I met J and K's both on that server. I would never have met Mara if I hadn't got onto Timeshot type thing. And so yeah, it's like, I definitely should have taken it less, less seriously than I did. Because like I was never even doing it thinking like this is gonna be my career. I'm gonna be a YouTuber. Like I never had any delusions of like quitting my job to do this thing. So like I don't know for what purpose I was driving so hard. But I mean, it was a hugely fulfilling part of, a hugely fulfilling time, having all those episodes going out and, this, that, and the other. I think to an extent, just like social media and that kind of like content creation, whatever form that takes, can be like kind of, addicting almost, just like the engagement and things like that. You get kind of tied up with, the views and the clicks and the this, that, and the other. And I think just, it was just something I was really, plugged into. And I enjoyed like the creative aspect. I'm a creative person. I went to school to do computer graphics and web design and stuff. And then I got hired on to a company to do some of that stuff, but for like a more serious, like STEM kind of company. And so I wasn't really getting like hugely creatively fulfilled in my daily job. And so a lot of this was a great outfit for that. I loved making the thumbnails and the graphics and I was never like I learned to do some video editing to do this. Like I said, I'd never done any of that before. But none of that was like, I'd never like, I think maybe at one point Winter, Win from the Timeshot server said she would keep creating content even if nobody was watching it. And I was like, I can't say the same. I like doing the actual like video editing and stuff was never a fulfilling portion of it. That was always like I got to get this done to get it out type thing. But yeah, I mean, there was a lot of aspects of it that I really did enjoy a lot. And I don't hate video editing, but also there have been times where I've just like scrapped videos, like, where I, was on the Timeshot server with people and we just kind of derped around for like 2 hours or something. And I'm like, how do I edit this down? Nobody's going to watch it if I put up a 2-hour episode. Most of this is just us, bouncing around. It's not even interesting. And I started like trying to edit it down into like a more reasonable episode length. And I'm just like, nope, this is just too much effort. Like I'm spending hours trying to whittle this just little joyride of ours around the server into something, more reasonable length. I'm like, 10 people are going to watch this. This is not worth my time. And so like I was like, you know, things that ended up being super intensive. I mean, that's one of the reasons that like Little League has had, you know, been so few and far between, because that's just like, that's a fully editing based series. I mean, that's like all animation and things like that. That's constantly switching scenes. Like that's a very intensive editing setup. And so I love the end product of it, but man, that is a series to do. And I do want to continue. We got to get through Little League Season 1, and then I got to figure out a better way to do the coverage of Little League Season 2, because I do want to do that. I bought a freaking trophy, guys. Like, I've got a trophy for this thing. And it's got like 12, you know, spaces for little brass plaques. So we gotta get some stuff rolling. But I got to figure out a better way to do the coverage of it, because that did not work. But yeah, so I would say take it less seriously, but at the same time, like I said, I've got no regrets, because it's one of those things. Like I never, and again, I've watched even like friends of mine who were making their living on YouTube are now having to work stiff jobs too. Like I never could have put I'm way too risk adverse. I never would have quit my job and like done YouTube full time, even if I'd like skyrocketed into the stratosphere. Which was never going to happen anyway. I don't have a dynamic and a personality. I'm cognizant enough about my own strengths and weaknesses to know that like I was never going to blow up, and so that wasn't even why I was doing it. But I also can't be upset about the outcomes that have come out of it. So there's that. I really got to fly through this. Goodness. What's your deepest, darkest secret? I'm not actually a tortoise. I'll say that. 10 years out, I will put that out there. Not actually a tortoise. You guys got me. Not a skin suit. I'm sorry for lying to all of my faithful fans over the years, but there we go. Thanks so much, Jake. All right, yeah, we got to fly through these guys. All right, so Jay Seed asked, what was your favorite collaboration you've ever done? And I've said this for years. My favorite collaborator for a long, long time was Baby Seed. There was a time when Jay's son was first born, Goober, and he was with Jay for like almost every time we collaborated, and I just loved editing the videos and things and just like listening to Baby Seed babble. It was great. Loved collaborating with Baby Seed. But I have to dethrone Baby Seed a little bit and put Tortellini, my own son, in there. He helped me on a couple of episodes of Grey Version Season 3. And so he's got to be my favorite collaborator, obviously. Favorite memory in Ark. So Ark Survival Evolved was a dinosaur survival type game that I played on the channel. I've got like 3 or 4 series of that, seasons of that on the channel. And my favorite memory of that, and Jay will be disappointed because it is not a Jay memory. My absolute favorite Ark Survival Evolved memory was, I think we were on the Scorched Earth map, and they had added wyverns to the game, dragons, and at the time that was a big, scary thing to like have to go attempt. You had to like, you couldn't like tame a dragon. You had to like sneak in there and steal an egg out of a nest into like this big, thickly infested like ravine full of dragons. They could like basically one-shot anything. So you had to sneak in there, grab an egg. When you grabbed an egg, they would aggro. You'd have to get out. And then when you hatched the egg, you had to like go knock out a dragon to get like milk. Like it was a whole super involved thing. And at the time, Pudsey, who now is going by, her handle is now, I think it's B or something to that effect, BEA, on Twitter at the very least. I don't think she's making any content anymore, but she was a time shotter. She was on the server, and she was in Australia, so our schedules were like 12 hours off. So like when she was on in the evenings, I was on in the morning, and so we were always like the 2 people who were on, and so we hung out a lot, became really good friends, hanging out on that server. But she and I then tag teamed to figure out this dragon stuff, and so we had several episodes where we were like doing the hunt and getting in there. We built the trap, we trapped the dragon, we did all this stuff. We're finally ready to do everything, and there was this quirk where like if you had the egg on your hotbar, like because you needed to like drop it out of your inventory to have it hatch, but if you had it on your hotbar or you accidentally clicked use instead of drop or something, you would actually eat the egg, like consume it, and it would just be gone. So we went through hours and hours and episodes and all this stuff preparing to like hatch our dragons. And then we go to drop ours down. She drops hers, and I go to click, and I click use instead of drop or something, and just eat it. And she hears the sound bite, and oh my god, because literally we put hours into this, and to just, it was like my biggest derp of like anything ever. Oh my god, it was so funny. I could not believe how stupid that was.
All right.
All right, here we go.
So
Take 2.
I'm gonna grab mine.
We totally didn't screw this up. This is our first attempt at placing these dragon eggs.
Drop.
Oh look, it is the exact size that we expected it to be. Okay.
Yep. Completely. Did you just eat it? Tort!
I tried to place it. Oh my god! Oh god, no!
Tort, what did you do?
I tried to place it and it ate it. I don't know. I thought I was doing it right. Oh god.
But yeah, that's got to be hands down my favorite arc memory ever. A favorite Pokemon you've had on a team, or favorite Pokemon you've not had on a team in a YouTube series. Now, I can't say for certain every Pokemon series that I've ever done, but I looked back at least at the Hexathlock and the Pokeathlock, which were my 2 primary like main series Pokemon series. And the favorite Pokemon of mine that didn't seem to appear in either of those series, and I'm sure I used one in like a gray version situation or something. In fact, I definitely did, which maybe I shouldn't count it then, because actually it was now that I'm thinking about it, it was my starter in gray version season 1, maybe. But I was going to say Nidoking, and we'll stick with that, because I've never used Nidoking in any of the Hexathlock or Pokeathlock, in any actual like Pokemon game that I'm aware of. Have I used that Pokemon? And Nidoking's one of my absolute favorites. So favorite Pokemon that was not used in like a main series type series, we'll go with Nidoking. Worst video to edit? Which video to edit you've done? Yeah, so I've already kind of talked about this, but there's been a couple of episodes of like the time shot that I've just scrapped because it was just having fun derping, and it didn't end up making like interesting content, and to make it consumable would have been so much work that I was like, nope. So I just deleted the content. Little League is a major pain in the butt to edit.
Hey, whippersnappers, welcome to TGSN's retrospective look back at the first season of the Little League. I am your host, Tortimer the Gray, and today I am joined by my good friend, Boots. Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me, Tortimer.
And then the only other thing that comes close to like Little League was I did a couple. I only ended up doing 2 of them. And then my plan was like to do one before the launch of like every maybe Hexathlock, maybe Pokeathlock season. But I was doing like my Pokemon top 10s, and it was like fully hand drawn and animated and things like that. My top 10.
I'm really excited today to bring you my top 10 favorite Johto Pokemon. Let's jump into it, shall we?
Number 10.
Alright guys, so for the number 10 slot on my Johto top 10 list, I cheated a little bit here, as I tend to do, and we have a 3-way tie for our number 10 slot. Cool Pokemon, and they're Houndour and Sneasel and Murkrow, and I loved all of them, and I still do to this day, so those guys fall in my top 10.
And I love how those 2 episodes I did Kanto and Johto, and I was going to like before season, I think like before season 3 of the Pokeathletic would come out, which was going to be Emerald. Then I was going to have the Hoenn one come out, and then Sinnoh before season 4. I was going to do that, but it was just so much work, way too much work. And so those ones that were highly intensive were always the worst for me. What are your plans for the channel moving forward? Honestly, unfortunately, it's going to be kind of status quo. I'm hoping to have the occasional series running. We are going to do Pokeathlock Season 6 at some point. I've got to finish. I got a little ambitious with like the intro sequence for this and things like that. And so I've got to finish all of my grandiose plans, and then we will jump in with that. Hang on, buddy, hang on. But again, gray version is starting up, and so there are things that we're going to be doing, but we're never going to be getting back to like streaming every day. Like Jay's currently like streaming like twice a day now. I don't know how he does it, but yeah, like streaming may never come back. Videos will be, will trickle out as time. Like I'm not like retiring the channel or anything, but we're never going to get back to the heyday of like, 5 channel series running at a time or whatever. It's just not reasonable for me at this stage. Favorite game with friends, and I put Minecraft on here, and that's a good one. But I think, as I said earlier, basically any game with friends is better. Is the best game, because Minecraft. I've said many times, Minecraft is a terrible game, but it's a great game engine. And at the same point, it's a great just medium to hang out with people. Just see, it's kind of like what they want to do with like the metaverse or whatever. Like it's just like basically this open blank space that you and your friends can just hang out in. And again, like some of my best friends live in Ireland or Finland or all around the world. I was hanging out with Pudsey and she's in Australia type thing. Like just the medium of games to allow that kind of connection makes any game a great game as long as you're with friends. I don't have any one particular game that's like, oh, that was the best, because the only thing that made it good was the fact that it was with friends. So there's that. Okay, we're going to skip a couple of these. Okay, combine the last two, well, maybe not the last two, but a couple of J's. He's asked favorite episode of Mandalorian and favorite part of Book of Boba Fett. And both of those are the same answer, I think. I didn't go back and like rewatch the entirety of Mandalorian to pick out an episode, but I think my favorite episodes of Mandalorian were also my favorite episodes of Book of Boba Fett, because the Book of Boba Fett series in general was pretty bad. There was definitely some very cool things in there. Like that Wookiee bounty hunter, Black Chrysanthemum, that is the coolest Star Wars character that's ever been created. And it wasn't created for Book of Boba Fett; it's a character from the comics or something. But his just presence in that show was great. But those there was 2 episodes of Book of Boba Fett were literally just episodes of The Mandalorian. And I think those were probably my favorite episodes of both Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett. So we'll combine those. Favorite game you streamed? Honestly, I can't even remember. I talked to Mara about this yesterday. I've gotten so old. And honestly, most of the games I've streamed, like there's been a few exceptions. And the only one I could really come up with was Kaze and I did a Pokemon Emerald like random lock race. Where we like randomized everything, types and moves and this and that was a lot of fun. But most of the times when I've streamed, like I was never like a hugely prolific streamer, and so most of what I was streaming was just like, I'm gonna work on my Minecraft dinosaur thing, or like it was mostly just like continuations or like filling in gaps on series I was already doing. And like I don't have an archive of like any of that anymore. It's like I honestly don't even remember like 90% of what I've streamed, because it's just like it was in one ear and out the other type thing. YouTube at least has the archive I can go back and look at. And Jay asked, why don't you have an office? And I think Mara asked, how's your office coming? So yeah, we've got a 3-bedroom home. My wife and I's room, we had the baby nursery, and then we had my office. And then when our oldest turned 2, we converted my office into his bedroom. So he's got his big boy bedroom now in what was my office, and now I've got a desk in the room, because then we knew that this guy was coming along, and so Tortellini would need to move out of the nursery into another room, and so yeah, we converted my office. So there's that. Then Code asks, and I've already talked about this a bit, so we'll zoom past it, but he says, is the first video you recorded public or private? Have you watched it recently? How much did you prepare before you started? So yeah, that first episode of the Hexathlok, for episode 1, Hexathlok season 1, of Pokemon Fire Red, is the first episode of video I ever created, bar none. Like there's lots of people, like I know Mara had like channels, or she did a lot of streaming, or there's a lot of people who did a lot of work before they started like their gaming channel or whatever. Not me. That first video on my channel is the first video I ever created. So yeah, it's out there. You guys can go watch it and cringe along with me. I think it's, considering where I started, I'm not embarrassed by it, but it's there's no denying that it's bad. So yeah, it's out there, and I did a lot of prep. Again, I didn't know, and had never edited a video before. I'd never done any kind of voice, where so I had to get all the equipment together. I had to figure out the software. I had to do all this, that, and the other. I like I said, I maybe recorded that video like 20 times before I finally got like a usable, uploadable version of it. So yeah, it was a lot of prep, and it's still out there. You guys can go watch it. So yeah. All right, so this moves us into then Mara's questions. She asked, what's your favorite series you've ever recorded? I think probably most fun to record and favorite series to have recorded are probably different. Probably my favorite series, and I probably said this. Yeah, I did. So, and that's what we'll go with. My favorite series that I've ever done on my channel was my Decimon series, which was the first Pixelmon SMP that I was on. I had done a brief Pixelmon series with, again, my friend Cluster, who got me onto the Farside server way back when I first started. But that Decimon series is probably one of my favorites. Because there was that combination of Pokemon and Minecraft, which were kind of my two things at that point, and just like the open world, like Pixelmon is the best Pokemon game I've ever played, because I'm there for the exploration and the team building and this, like, I'm not there for the story anyway. So yeah, Pixelmon is my favorite, and there's actually a new mod that is coming out, or is out, that Kay's mentioned, Cubemon, maybe? I forget, something like that, which is basically a Pixelmon, type mod. It's basically, but Pixelmon has gone the way where they started ripping models out of the games, so everything's like smooth and high poly or whatever. But this new one is going back to like the more blocky, like they look like Minecraft creatures, which has always been my preference. So interested in looking into that a little bit whenever I have time. But yeah, probably that Decimon series is my favorite. That, or because that was kind of a multiplayer type thing, and again, that's where I met like Jay and Kay's, and it was just a lot of fun. That series is probably the most fun I've ever had doing YouTube. Is there a game that you've wanted to cover on your channel for the last 10 years and haven't done it? Yes, many. The ones that sprang to mind initially when you asked this question was the Lego games. I had big plans to do like Lego Lord of the Rings and Lego Star Wars and all of those Lego games on the channel. But then friends of mine, and Mara, maybe it was even you, but friends of mine and other people I was watching things like that were having a lot of troubles with content strikes. Because it had like the movie's music in the games or whatever, or movie dialogue or what. There were so many content strikes for people playing those Lego games, and it just turned. I had made thumbnails. I was getting ready to go, and there was people were having such a headache with it, like huge swaths of they were either having to completely mute the audio in the dialogue, or like huge swaths of it were being muted by YouTube. Like it was a fiasco, and so I never went back and I never did them. But I was really looking forward to doing that, and it just the headache of it all, the content strikes of it all, things like that. I never got around to it. Name one of the funniest collaboration moments you remember from the past 10 years. Now this maybe isn't the funniest, but the funniest I remember, we can go with. And this actually is a Mara moment, and she'll remember this because I mostly remember it because she made a short of it. She was trying to get in on the short YouTube Shorts thing when they were first kicking that off, and so she was cutting up some of her streams and things into little shorts. And there was one, her and I playing Sea of Thieves, which is a great little game. Unfortunately for me, it's a game that requires multiplayer basically, so it's not one that I've gotten to play just like an excessive amount of. But there was a stretch there where I got to play a decent amount with it, either with the K's and some of his friends, or I played with Mara and some others as well. So, but there was one time where I think maybe Mara and K's were playing. I don't remember exactly, but definitely me and Mara. And there was one situation where like she was carrying a barrel of explosives, or there was a skeleton that was carrying a barrel of explosives. There was some situation where there was a barrel of explosives and a skeleton, and I was trying to shoot the skeleton but accidentally hit the barrel of explosives and ended up. I was trying to save her from the skeleton, and I ended up blowing her up or something, or she blew me up. Oh, now I don't remember. So maybe funniest moment you remember is a bit of a misnomer, but yeah. So that's got to be. I've definitely laughed very. As I said, playing with Jay, playing with Case, playing with Amara. Or hanging out with the time shotters. You're always laughing, so it's very hard to pick it. But like the one that jumps out to me, at least when the question gets asked, is that moment of. And if I remember, which is a very tall order, but if I remember, I'll try to link that short in the description so you guys can watch it, because I just was dying laughing. She killed me, I killed hers, something accidentally, somebody died, and I thought it was funny. So we'll go with that. Name 2 of your favorite golden moments with your channel. So yeah, I remember that I did a lot of finagling to get onto the Decimon server. I really worked it. I hung out in Desi's streams, like I made myself visible. It's funny now because Jay and I are, we're really good friends now, but like at the time I kind of like a hunter stalking his prey. I was like, okay, I got to find people on this server because I really wanted to get onto that server. I think a couple of the people from the Farside server had gotten onto the server, and I really wanted to get on too, just because it looked like it was so much fun. And so I was like, I need to find the people who aren't getting a ton of engagement in their series and on their videos, and I'm gonna follow those people, and I'm gonna just engage the heck out of them. I'm just gonna be so visible and so engaging. They're gonna know my name. And not like in an obnoxious way, but I was like consistent. Every time they put up an episode, I watched it and was commenting. And Jay was one of those people on the server at the time who wasn't getting overwhelmed with engagement. And so I was like, all right, this guy, I'm like, this guy's pretty cool. And then we started hanging out when I finally got on the server. I was visible enough in Desi's streams, visible enough in other, Jay and April's and some of these other comments, so that when my, I think it was an application process. When my application came up, like, oh yeah, I know that guy, and so yeah, I kind of weaseled my way in there. And so when I got onto the Decimon server, that was a big win for me. And then I really remember when I hit 100 subscribers, I was super excited. I was like, I never thought I'd get here. This is amazing. Like, I will never hit 1,000, but like this will be great. And I think we've been stalled out at like 2.8 thousand for like the last 5 years because I just stopped uploading content, which doesn't help. But yeah, I remember getting onto Decimon and then subsequently getting onto Time Shot. I kind of slingshotted the success of getting onto Decimon to similarly wheedle my way into the consciousness of the Time Shotters and get onto that server. But yeah, I remember really big pops when I got on Decimon and when I got on to or when I hit that 100 subscriber mark. So that's fun. Worst channel ever, or worst video on the channel. Again, I'm not really like embarrassed by any of the stuff on my channel, but probably I would have to say I've got like 3 or 4 episodes of like Pokemon Go that I recorded when it first came out. And like I didn't have the ability to do like screen capture of like my phone, so I literally had like an old phone that I was pointing at like my existing phone as I was recording it. And that's it.
Hey, whippersnappers, this is Tortoise the Gray. Welcome back to another exciting new series here on the Tortoise the Gray gaming channel. Today we are starting gonna be kind of an unconventional series, but kind of a real life / VR, well not VR, but AR, augmented reality series. Pokemon Go just came out yesterday, and was finally able to get it in the App Store last night. Well, I guess last night as I'm recording this. You probably won't see this until tomorrow. Finally was able to get logged in today. The servers were overtaxed until just now, and so I've got on, and we are in the process of, we're going to be trying to do this. I'm recording this with an old phone because my old phone isn't capable of actually running the game, and it's not great.
I'm not like embarrassed by it, but like that's not those videos are not good. So we'll say that. Name some of your favorite memories from Mixer. I don't have like a lot of memories from Mixer necessarily, like specifically But I do still miss, and I'm shocked that like it's not like nobody else like picked up the technology, but like the co-stream functionality from Mixer and the soundboard functionality from Mixer. Those were such great little touches to the engagement.
Listen, old man.
I
said get off my lawn now.
Of the community or with a fellow streamer or something. Those were awesome, and I still miss that functionality. I'm not even streaming anymore, and I still lament the fact that that's gone. So, and then I guess getting Mara partnered on Mixer. I was her manager, and I made that happen. She had no hand in that whatsoever. I 100% did everything. I think I told Mara at some point, I'm like, you've got to increase the size of your little penguin webcam by like 200%. I'm like, that thing is your draw. You know, you got to get people in the door. The thumbnail, you got to have that big derpy looking penguin right there so they'll see it and that'll bring them in. And next day she was not next day, but she put in a lot of hard work and grind. I had almost no impact whatsoever. But I did tell her she needed to make the penguin webcam bigger, and that was a big, that did help her a lot, actually, I think. Because, I mean, Mara's a great content creator, but you got to get people in the door, right? So that was her hook. And she had to endure endless blueberries saying, how are you a penguin, or whatever. She had to have like multiple commands on her board, just like answer that stupid question over and over again. But that's probably my favorite Mixer memory is single-handedly all on my own getting Mara partnered. Are there other types of channels you'd like to try that you never have? There are definitely a couple of ideas that I've always got grand ideas that I've just like I spend too long thinking about, and then they never happen, as most of them. But I had at one point, and I even had like I made the channels, I made a bunch of thumbnails, I made intros, I had the channel art. The channel was live. I even put the link out to people. Some of you guys maybe even subscribed to it. But Gray Band Media was I was gonna do like a video or a movie and TV review channel. And I got really far down the line with that before I realized, why would anybody care about my opinion on any of this stuff? I have no background in movies or TV. I have no like I'm not making like, I sat down and tried to record a couple of episodes, and I just realized like I thought this idea was really cool until I sat down and actually had to say something worth listening to, and I had nothing.
Hey, whippersnappers, this is Tortoise the Gray, and welcome to my brand new channel, Gray Band Reviews, where I'm going to be taking the opportunity of a new channel to explore some of the other ends of the entertainment spectrum that I haven't really had the opportunity to do over on my gaming channel, because obviously, as the name would suggest, Tortoise the Gray Gaming is very gaming focused. And it wouldn't make a whole lot of sense for me to put some of these other thoughts out on that channel. So I've created this one to kind of get the chance to explore that other end of the entertainment spectrum that includes like movies and television, and even occasionally we might be talking about books, especially as they relate to the wider cinematic universes that are being put out there right now, like the Star Wars has the new canon that ties into the movies and things like that. We may be talking about some of that as well.
So I scrapped that. It's still out there, but the links aren't on anything of mine anymore. You can still find it if you want, I think, maybe, but never had enough subscribers to have like a clean URL or anything anyway. But the channel's still up. There's just nothing on it. I never uploaded anything there. And then the one I know Mara wanted me to talk about was... So it wasn't going to be a channel, although I guess it could be uploaded on a channel. But I had approached her at one point, and I'm still going to do it at some point. I've just got to find the right co-host. But I had approached Mara. I'm going to do a kind of rantomer-centric, not called rantomer or anything, but everybody when I streamed used to love my rants, my rantomer persona, where I would just kind of like, something would trigger me, and I would just go off about it for like 5 minutes. People loved that, and I was going to do a podcast, and I'm still going to do it at some point. I'm not going to tell you the name of it or anything when I put it out there and it's live, because eventually I will do it. I've just got to find the right person to partner with on it. It's going to be a podcast, and I'm just basically going to be ranting. I mean, I've got to come up with the whole show structure. You got to have segments, a whole thing, basically about inane stuff that nobody cares about. Yeah, that'll be something that I do want to do, and I am going to do at some point. It's too good of an idea to not do eventually. I just got to find the right person to work on it with me. All right. I already kind of talked about, she asked how long exactly did it take you to prepare to publish the very first video on the channel. I was much more of a go-getter when I started this process than I am today. Now I'm kind of to the point, and some of it is the moderate clinical depression that I've been dealing with, but now I like to think about something for a good 6 months to 2 years before I actually take action on something. And I'm sure there was a lot of thought that went into it ahead of time, but I definitely just kind of hit the ground running when I first started my channel. And it took a long time to get that first episode ready to publish. But it wasn't so much me stuck in my head as it was just figuring out how to record and edit and upload videos more than anything. So yeah. What games are you looking forward to in 2023? So I'm still... I still got a couple on my list. And there's probably some indie ones that I've kind of been keeping my eye on, but I'm not actually sure when they're getting published. I still want to play that Hogwarts Legacy game. I know there's a lot of politics behind it, whatever. If you don't want to support, a particular artist for something, that's your prerogative. In my estimation, it looks fun. And they've got more money than God already anyway, so my contribution isn't going to affect anything. And I don't see the reason to punish myself for something like that. So anyway, but all that aside, I think that game looks really cool. It's been out for a while, and I don't have the time to play it, so I haven't spent the money on it, but I do want to play it. Jedi Survivor is also coming out. I still have to beat Jedi Fallen Order before I'll let myself buy Jedi Survivor, so that'll probably never happen, but that game looks great. And then the Breath of the Wild sequel, Tears of the Kingdom, Zelda, I'm really looking forward to that as well. There's some Pokemon Scarlet Violet DLC that's coming out end of the year that I don't know if I'll end up getting or not. I never even ended up finishing the Sword and Shield content, so we'll see how that plays out. But yeah, so yeah. Okay, she wants to know, she had sent me these turkey pepper candy, turkey peppery candies, which is basically a hard licorice candy that had like cayenne red pepper flakes in the middle. And she's like, how bad were they really? Because I really played it up. I grew up in my family, we grew up with my dad's side of the family is Italian. I'm a third generation Italian, so my great grandparents emigrated to the America, and so we had a lot of traditional foods growing up, and we had these like anise flavored cookies, and then when we got a little older, my grandpa's drink of choice was anisette or sambuca, which is kind of a licorice anise flavored drink. So I'm predisposed to, from birth, be partial to liking the anise licorice kind of flavoring, so it really wasn't that bad. I definitely, it wasn't great. The red pepper flakes in the middle didn't add a lot to the experience in my estimation, and it was more of a salty than a sweet licorice, which is also not my taste necessarily. But it wasn't as bad as I planned it to be. I definitely put a little zing on it for acting, for showbiz there. 3 biggest pet peeves. I'm sorry guys, this video is gonna be like 2 hours long. 3 biggest pet peeves. So Mara knows this one for sure. Redoing work. Nothing makes me madder than and especially mostly when this would crop up in our conversations was like, oh, my computer updated and or Minecraft updated or something, and now all my profiles are broken, and now I've got to spend half a day rebuilding all of my profiles, or just redoing work that somebody I spent all this time, I got it working, and then somebody else broke it, and now I've got to put a bunch of time into fixing it. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. A preview. Hey, out of there. My dog Fuzzball's digging into my woodpile. I don't know what he's doing. a preview for the first episode of the Randomer podcast. Starting with the big, hard-hitting topics. One of my biggest pet peeves is dust jackets on books. Why? I understand, like, historically why they might exist. Why do they still exist? It's just like this other thing. You're like trying to hold the book, and like the book slides out of it, and then like, okay, well, I'll take this off, but then you got this other thing you got to deal with. It's like, and underneath it is the exact same thing. They just got the dust jacket over the exact same. It's like, why does this exist? But yeah, it's so redoing work that somebody else caused me to have to do. Dust jackets on books, and then my third one is the translation of proper nouns, and that's a weird one, I understand, but like think about it for a second. like things like Germany. In English we call the country Germany. It's Deutschland. It's like, okay, why do we call it Germany if they call it Deutschland? It's their country. That's the name of their country. Why are we you guys know, because at the beginning of every episode, I had for the longest time it was just like thoughtful quotes, and then it kind of translated into being just kind of strictly Bible verses. So obviously I'm a Christian, but like one of the things that like really annoys me is like, okay, so Jesus, his name wasn't Jesus, his name was Yeshua, which we get Jesus from like the Greek approximation of the it's like the English approximation of the Greek of the what is his name was Yeshua, which in English is Joshua. So why do we call him Jesus? Just like the translation, unnecessary translation of like proper nouns. It's like I just don't understand it. Like, if that was his name, then that's what we should call him. If that's the country's name, that's what we should call it. Like, I don't understand like why we take it upon ourselves to like tell other people what we're gonna call. Like, no, it's Deutschland. So yeah, that's one of my biggest pet peeves. I can go on and on about that. Maybe that'll be episode 2 of the Rantomer podcast. But your latest IRL dirt moment, I don't really have one. I'm a very boring, crotchety old man now. I don't really do a lot of derping in my day-to-day boring life. That's going to make Mara very sad, but it's just, I don't. I couldn't come up with anything. She wants to know about my latest sweet and savory bakes. Again, I'm a very boring, crotchety person. I don't do a lot of baking. I cook purely for sustenance. I don't make desserts because why would I need a dessert? I need to just be fed. I need to feed the family. Like I don't do anything for fun in the kitchen. It's all like, okay, this is how we're going to survive for the next week. So that kind of stuff. If we do pies and cookies and things like that, that's kind of my wife's purview. I haven't done I don't know that I ever did anything that I learned on Bake Off. Mara and I used to talk a lot about doing the Great British Bake Off, and then we both started doing keto and stuff, and that kind of became difficult for us to do because you can't watch that show and not be able to eat carbs. It's just not possible. But yeah, I've never put a lot of that into practice. I love it, but I don't do it. Name 2 of your favorite movies of all time. How about favorite series? So if I have to, well, I'll do 3 favorite movies and then I'll tell you series. So still today, Jurassic Park, Shawshank Redemption, and The Prestige are my 3 favorite movies. And then like the Lord of the Rings series, the Harry Potter series, the MCU, and Star Wars are probably my favorite movies. Series. So we'll go with that. Okay, now we're moving into SCAD. Goodness gracious, I'm so sorry guys, this is taking forever. Will we ever get to see you finish your Stories 2? She's talking about Monster Hunter Stories 2. And basically this answer can go for any series that I haven't completed. I don't know if I'm ever going to see the completion of the series, so I can't really say that you're going to. I would love to. That is one of those games that just like, I think I was playing it and then life got busy and then like another game came out and I've just never been able to get back to it. I would love to get back and finish that Monster Hunters game. I know that's one that like you guys, my community on my Discord, and especially like SCAD, really talked me into that one, and it is a really good game. I've really enjoyed it. I would love to get back to it. I've got so many like untouched games I've not even played, so I don't know if I will. I would love to say that I will. And if I ever like get to the point where I like can stream a night or two a week or something, then maybe that's one that we're like, all right, we're gonna clear out our playlist. We're gonna everything that's like half finished. We're just gonna finish all those up. And so Jedi Fallen Order and Monster Hunter Story and this, that, and the other. Maybe we'll do that cleanup someday, but I can't make any promises. Scad also asks, if you get a new pet of a type you've never had before, what do you think it would be? So the most probable answer to this question is chickens. My wife's really into gardening, and especially with like the COVID supply chain stuff and inflation right now and things like that. Like the idea of like doing a little homesteady type setup where like we don't actually have to rely on the grocery store for like 100% of our sustenance. Like if things like got real bad with the supply chain or something again, like we could survive on like, you know, eggs or whatever. So probably the most likely thing of something I've never owned before would be chickens. Now again, the fuzzball's 8 years old. You know, maybe we'll have another dog before we've got you know, chickens or something. But obviously I've had a dog before. And my goal was to, when he turned 6, to get another dog, because I wanted them to kind of like, you know, him to kind of teach the new puppy and things like that. And then we just, you know, started having kids and stuff instead, and they're expensive and time consuming and things like that. A puppy just didn't make sense. So, but probably something I've never had before: chickens, and or I'd love to get rabbits. I don't know what I would do with it. It will never happen. But I love rabbits, and or I at one point was really flirting with the idea of getting a hedgehog. Obviously never happened, but something that I kind of flirted with the idea of at one point or another. Love hedgehogs. I don't know why. They'd make terrible pets, but I like them. I don't know. I like them. Do you have any thoughts on the new Star Trek series? Last one from Scad. I am woefully behind. I've seen the first 2 seasons of Discovery. I think I'm a season behind on Discovery. I saw the first season of Lower Decks, but I've not seen Strange New Worlds. I've not seen Prodigy. I've not seen subsequent seasons of Discovery or Strange New or Lower Decks. I'm maybe even missing some entirely. I was Lower Decks was funny. I liked that show a lot. Discovery was kind of meh. Like, it wasn't bad. I didn't hate it, but I also like wasn't like super engaged by it. Picard, I was enjoying season 1. Was really disappointed with how it ended. And I heard season 2 was terrible, so I've never even watched it. I don't know if I will. I probably will at some point, because I love John Delancey. Q is one of my favorite characters, and I know he's not in it a lot. I think he kind of bookends the season, from what I understand. But maybe I'll watch like the premiere and like the finale or something, and see if that gives me enough of a picture. But like Guinan came back and things like that. But this season 3, I'm only like 3 or 4 episodes into it. I've heard it's exactly what people wanted from the very beginning from Picard. You've got reunions with most of the old cast, things like that. And so that's kind of what I was hoping for from the very beginning. And so I'm really excited. I'm enjoying what I've seen so far. There's some reminiscence on like I just started episode 4. And there's some reminiscence to like some previous episodes of like TNG. Like there was an episode with like Jason Vigo was I think the character's name, and there's a lot of that with like one of the characters on the show. It's like this is very reminiscent of that kind of plot line that they were playing out there. But I like what they're doing so far. I'm enjoying it. It's just fun to see. You know, we got to see a little bit of Riker and Troy in the first season, I think. Well, I haven't watched season 2, so yeah, in the first season. But it's really cool to see like Old Worf and Beverly and things like that back. I love that cast. So yeah, I'm really enjoying that, and I'm excited to dip into Strange New Worlds and stuff. I've heard that's really good as well, and catch up on Lower Decks and things like that. I probably won't bother with season 3 of Discovery. I just don't care. It never really hooked me. But yeah. All right, last couple. These are from Shun, Shunosaurus. Favorite Gray version memory. I know everybody else's favorite Gray version memory, so I'll pay homage to it. Last season, I think it was in the Elite Four, I want to say. I think it was a Ghost Elite Four. I literally did not have a single victory in that entire week. Like, even I got to the end of the week, I didn't have a single victory. I'm like, okay, so what do we do? And my brother was like, all right, you can battle your 5-year-old nephew, and that'll get you your win. I got beat by my 5-year-old nephew. I got beat by my 3-year-old nephew. My team was just not built the way that I thought it was. And I think that eventually, like, battling my sister-in-law the second time, I managed a victory or something. But yeah, that's everybody else's favorite memory. My favorite memory, and there was a lot of good moments from Gray version, my favorite battles are the ones that are really close but that I win. I always say that in Gray version. My favorite ones are the ones that are really close but that I come out victorious. And there was one, I think it was last season as well. Pretty sure. There was one between me and Scad, where she had a Quagsire. I think his name was Tom the Quagsire, and I had Lol the Scrafty. And they were both bulky Pokemon that couldn't really do much to either one, and they both had recovery, and they both had setup, and it was just like, I think it was literally like 120 turns between my Scrafty and her Quagsire. Yeah, that's my favorite Gray version memory. I'm sure there was lots of other good ones from the previous season or whatever, but freshest in my mind is Tom versus Lol. So that's what we'll go with there. He asked then, if you could get a new pet turtle or tortoise species, what would it be? So I've got two answers for this. Tortoise. My next tortoise, if I ever get another tortoise, because they're very long-lived species. Ideally, Ahsoka, my cherry-head redfoot tortoise, will be around forever. Hopefully I'll have to leave her to my sons in my will. But if I ever get another tortoise, it'll probably be a Western Herman's tortoise. I, for a while there, was volunteering with a non-profit turtle and tortoise rescue organization, and one of our primary keepers, tortoise keepers in that organization, did a lot of work with the Western Herman's tortoise, which is one that's native to Italy and kind of that area. And I'm from Italy, and they're a beautiful tortoise, and just kind of the connection with kind of the regional, and they're kind of a more endangered species, so keeping them would actually be worthwhile. Things like not that keeping any creature isn't necessarily worthwhile in and of itself, but if I were to get back into doing more keeping of turtles and tortoises, it would probably be more in like building an assurance colony or something with like an endangered species, something that would, like, as opposed to me just like keeping this animal captive and giving them a substandard life. I would when I further down the line when we've got more property or something, I would like to be able to build up like an assurance colony of like some endangered species or something like that. Get more involved with like there's big networks of like people trading to keep bloodlines diverse and things like that. Like I would like to, if I was going to get into it, do something more along those lines. Keep a small like assurance colony or something. So tortoise, Western Hermans, and I've never really like. My first ever turtle tortoise was a turtle. It was a box turtle named Michelangelo, and he was short-lived with us. I think we got him when I was like 5, and the guy who sold him to us, he was like in the middle of a hibernation cycle and just kind of threw everything off, and he didn't end up surviving. So tortoises are a little hardier. You don't have to deal with the aquatics and the live prey and things like that. So tortoises have been much more my speed. But there's this one species, it's called wood turtles. The North American wood turtle is this beautiful, they've got beautiful shells. They're kind of brown, they've got like brown heads and shells, but then they've got this beautiful, vibrant orange skin. Wood turtles, I would love to. They're native to northern, I'm kind of in the region for them. I don't think they're legal. So, reminiscent of my first ever video, ran out of battery space, so I'm recording this in multiple channels. Actually, it reminds me a lot of when I first did Pokemon X. I think I did a blind run of that initially, But to record on 3DS, there wasn't really emulation at that point, and to do it properly, you had to pay like $600, $800 or something to a third party to like mod your 3DS or something. And so instead, I rigged up my phone and I was recording, kind of like I did with Pokemon Go, where I was recording the screen of the 3DS and then editing it into like an overlay and things like that. You guys can't see the majestic deer that's standing in the bottom screen, but just take my word for it. It's fantastic. But I had to record that in like 15, 20-minute chunks because my phone, at that point, I had so little memory on my phone. Phones weren't big enough that I had to record it in chunks, upload it, clear it off, then record the other part of the episode. So yeah, it's funny the things that come, just the weird jank things I've had to do over the years just to get content put together. But yeah, phone died. So I felt my gut sink. I finished talking. I felt like I've been talking for like 2 hours, and I go over to grab my phone, and it's dead. I was like, oh no, did this record like 3 minutes, and I've been talking for 2 hours? Thankfully, no. When I first got it booted back up, it looked like it had recorded 18 seconds, and I was like, there's no way. But then it rendered, and I had all but like the last 5 minutes, which is just like, oh thank God. But so I was doing Shun's question about like if I ever owned another turtle or tortoise species, what would I own? And I talked about the Herman's tortoise, and I was talking about the wood turtle, and I was finishing saying that if I were ever to get back into like I've got my one tortoise, and that's more than enough. If I ever was in a position where I had like more land or something, because I had gotten involved, I think I'd started saying with this, I had volunteered for a couple of years with this turtle and tortoise nonprofit rescue organization. They did a lot of assurance colony type stuff, which is like they were captive breeding and raising, population of endangered species, things like that like, for whatever reason in their natural population, whether from poaching or environmental concerns or whatever, were no longer super viable in the wild. So they were breeding up those populations in captivity so that at least the species would go on, type thing. Yeah, almost done, buddy. In the meantime, Tortellini's woken up from his nap, so he's here with us too. Tortoni fell asleep. He was kind of slumped over sleeping through the last hour of that, I think, and then Tortellini has woken up. So, but yeah, so I would love to get more involved with that kind of stuff. If I'm going to keep, instead of just having pets, keep with some purpose. So I would love to do like an assurance colony of some endangered species, like the wood turtles or the Hermans or something like that. I think that would be really cool. And then for Shun's last question, which got cut off, was if you could bring back one extinct species, what would you bring back? And my answer for that has pretty much always been, now I'm a big dinosaur guy, I love dinosaurs, but like, Spinosaurus isn't really gonna thrive in the modern environment. Not that my answer would necessarily either. Mine's a more recent extinction, which is the thylacine, the Tasmanian tiger. Ever since I was a child, I've been fascinated. We had like this National Geographic binder that had like kind of like species cards. It like had a picture, and then it had like the range and like some details about them and things like. I don't remember exactly what it was, but we had a card for the thylacine. It's just always been one of my favorite animals, and I'm so sad that they're, I missed them by that much. But I think they are actually working on like, they're working on bringing back like the woolly mammoth and the thylacine. Like there's a bunch of these like creatures where like either they're more recent extinctions where they still have some things that they can work with DNA wise, or they have some more modern relatives that they think they can like reverse engineer them or something. I don't know if any of that will come to fruition. It seems like probably there wouldn't be like a great cost benefit analysis to doing that, besides just like for the good of the planet. But like, what niche would they fill? Where would you put them that they would like then be able to thrive? Like, it seems like more of a gimmick than it would be like a true like conservation focused purpose. But yeah, so the thylacine would be the one I would bring back. But yeah, that's it. I think this video is gonna be over an hour and a half long, based on the length of content that I had recorded from previously. So but yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for hanging out for the last 10 years, whether we've been collaborators or just members of my community. I think we've all become good friends in the last 10 years. And I went from a kid to having a couple of them myself. And so it's been a long decade. And I think we've all kind of, grown a lot in the last 10 years. So, but yeah, I look forward to the continuing adventure, as intermittent as it may be, and just I've got all these grand ideas on how I'd like to overhaul my streaming setup and all these things. I've got so many grand ideas, and whether or not I'll ever have the time or energy to do any of them, I don't know. But I am appreciative to those of you guys who were around for the journey either way. So as always, I've been Torm with the Gray, and you guys have been great. Make sure those likes, comments, subscriptions for me, guys, and I will see you all back here next time. Alrighty, guys, have a good one.